Today, we will explore the 10 Commandments, a spiritual and moral guide that has transcended generations. Beyond their religious roots, these principles invite us to reflect on how to live in harmony with ourselves, with others, and with God. Let's delve deeper into each commandment to understand its meaning, context, and relevance in our daily lives. Commandment 1. You shall love God above all things. The first commandment, you shall love God above all things, is the foundation of all the others. This commandment calls us to put God at the center of our lives, recognizing His place as our Creator, Savior, and Guide. But what does it really mean to love God above all things? And how can we live this commandment today? When God gave the 10 Commandments to the people of Israel on Mount Sinai, He did so at a crucial moment in their history. These were a people who had just been freed from slavery in Egypt, where multiple gods were worshipped and idolatry was practiced. God was establishing an exclusive covenant with His people, inviting them to recognize Him not only as their liberator, but also as the source of all good. This commandment was radical for its time, since it affirmed the existence of only one true God. In Deuteronomy 6:5, this idea is expanded. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. This is an invitation to total love, which encompasses all aspects of our lives, our emotions, our decisions, and our actions. Commandment 2. Thou shalt not take God's name in vain. The second commandment tells us, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. For the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who takes His name in vain. Exodus 27. This instruction is not only a call to avoid misusing God's name, but also to recognize the holiness, power, and importance of what His name represents. In Hebrew culture, a person's name had a deep meaning. It was not just a label, but it represented the identity, authority, and very essence of whoever bore that name. God's name, YHWH, was considered so sacred that the Israelites avoided pronouncing it directly, instead using terms such as Adonai, Lord, or Elohim, God. This commandment, given to the people of Israel, had a clear intention: to teach them to respect and honor the holiness of God. In the context of an ancient world full of idolatry, where gods were treated as simple cult figures, God presented Himself as unique, holy, and worthy of total reverence. Commandment 3. You will sanctify the holidays. The third commandment tells us, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you will work and do all your work, but the 7th day is a rest to the Lord your God. Exodus 20:8-10. This commandment underscores the importance of rest, worship, and spiritual connection. But beyond being a simple instruction, it has a deep meaning that invites us to reflect on how we balance our lives between work, family, and our relationship with God. To understand this commandment, it is essential to consider the context in which it was given. The people of Israel had just left Egypt, where they had been slaves for centuries. There they had no days of rest. They worked constantly under the yoke of their oppressor. God, in freeing His people, not only gave them physical freedom, but also a model for living fully. He instituted the Sabbath as a reminder of his creation and his redemptive work. In Genesis, we see that God himself rested on the seventh day after creating the world, not because he was tired, but to establish a pattern of rest and renewal. Commandment 4. You will honor your father and mother. The fourth commandment says, honor your father and your mother, so that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. Exodus 20:12. This commandment is not only about obedience, but also about respect, gratitude, and care for our parents, and in a broader sense, for those who have guided and formed us. In Hebrew culture, the family was the basis of society. Parents were not only authority figures, but also those responsible for transmitting faith, tradition, and moral values to future generations. Honoring them was essential to maintaining the stability and well-being of the community. Furthermore, this is the first commandment that includes a promise, so that your days may be long. In the original context, this could be understood as a guarantee of longevity and prosperity for those who respected the family structure. It also stressed the importance of generational continuity in a people that depended on cooperation and mutual respect to survive. Commandment 5. Thou shalt not kill. The fifth commandment, thou shalt not kill, Exodus 20:13, is short but profoundly powerful. It goes beyond the literal prohibition of taking life. It is a call to protect and value all forms of life, to live in peace, and to reject any action that degrades, damages, or destroys human dignity. In the context of ancient Israel, this commandment was a direct and necessary instruction. In a society emerging from slavery and seeking to establish itself as a united people, protecting human life was essential to maintain order and justice. The commandment, thou shalt not kill, prohibits intentional murder, that is, taking life unjustly or premeditated. In the law of Moses, there were clear distinctions between murder, accidental manslaughter, and self-defense, showing that even at that time there was a nuanced understanding of this principle. This commandment emphasizes that human life is sacred because it has been created in the image and likeness of God. Genesis 1:27. Every life is valuable, unique, and worthy of respect. Commandment 6. Thou shalt not commit impure acts. The sixth commandment, thou shalt not commit impure acts, Exodus 20:14, is an invitation to live with purity and faithfulness in our relationships. Although its primary focus is on sexuality and marriage, it has a much broader scope, also encompassing dignity, respect, and true love in our interactions with others and with ourselves. In the culture of ancient Israel, fidelity in marriage was essential not only for the well-being of families, but also for the stability of the entire community. This commandment prohibited adultery, that is, sexual infidelity within marriage. Adultery was not only a betrayal of one's spouse, but also broke trust and put the family unit, which was the basis of society, at risk. The purpose of this commandment was not simply to avoid a physical act, but to protect the marriage covenant, which was considered sacred and reflected God's relationship with his people. In the prophets, adultery is often used as a metaphor to describe the spiritual unfaithfulness of the people of Israel towards God. Commandment 7. Thou shalt not steal. The seventh commandment. Thou shalt not steal. Exodus 20:15 is a clear instruction against misappropriating what does not belong to us. However, it goes far beyond the simple act of taking something material without permission. This commandment also calls us to live with honesty, justice, and respect for the work, time, and possessions of others. It invites us to reflect on the value of integrity and to build a society based on mutual trust. In ancient Israel, this commandment had a very relevant, literal meaning. In a society where possessions were limited and essential for survival, theft could destabilize entire families and communities. Furthermore, in a nomadic or agricultural context, where trust was key, stealing was seen as a serious betrayal that affected social cohesion. B. Commandment, thou shalt not steal, protected property rights and promoted justice and equity among people. But beyond the physical act of taking something, this commandment established an ethical standard: respect for the rights and dignity of others. Commandment 8. You shall not bear false witness nor lie. The eighth commandment. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Exodus 20:16 goes beyond the simple prohibition of lying. It is a call to live with integrity, to protect the truth, and to build relationships based on trust. This commandment challenges us to evaluate the impact of our words on the lives of others and on our own relationship with God. In the context of ancient Israel, words carried enormous weight. In a time where forensic evidence and extensive written records did not exist, verbal testimony was essential to resolving legal disputes and ensuring justice. Giving false testimony in a trial could have devastating consequences, including the conviction of an innocent person or the acquittal of a guilty person. This commandment protected both individuals and the community by requiring honesty and reliability in testimonies. But its scope was not limited to the courts. It also encompassed any situation in which our words could harm the reputation or well-being of another person. Commandment 9. You shall not indulge impure thoughts or desires. The ninth commandment. You shall not entertain impure thoughts or desires, focuses on purity of mind and heart. It is a call not only to avoid external acts that may be considered impure, but also to examine our internal desires and seek to live in integrity, even in our thoughts. This commandment reminds us that everything we do begins in the heart. In the context of ancient Israel, this commandment was an extension of the principles regulating human relationships. In particular, it protected the purity of marital relationships by prohibiting not only physical adultery forbidden in Commandment 6, but also the desire to commit it. The ninth commandment was intended to address the problem at the root: the thoughts and desires that, if left unchecked, lead to sin. This approach emphasizes that God is not only interested in our external actions, but also in what happens inside us. As Proverbs 4:23 says, keep your heart above all else, for from it flows life. Commandment 10. You shall not covet other people's goods. The 10th commandment, thou shalt not covet other people's goods. Exodus 20:17. Invites us to reflect on our desires and attitudes toward the possessions of others. This commandment does not simply prohibit the act of appropriating something from another. It goes further, addressing the inner desires that can lead to sin. It is a call to live with contentment, gratitude, and trust in God as our provider. In the context of ancient Israel, this commandment had a profound purpose. Unlike other commandments that regulated external acts, such as theft or adultery, this one focused on the heart. It prohibited the desire to take what belonged to another, whether it was his house, his wife, his livestock, or any other possession. In a society where family, material goods, and animals were essential for subsistence, coveting other people's property not only created personal tensions, but also endangered the stability of the community. This commandment protected social harmony by promoting gratitude and mutual respect. Thank you for joining us until the end of this video. I hope that this reflection has inspired you and that it has been useful to you on your spiritual path. If you liked this content, don't forget to give it a like so that more people can discover it. I'd also love to read your thoughts in the comments. What resonated with you the most? What topic would you like us to talk about in future videos? And of course, if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming content. This is how we continue to grow together and share this message with more people. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your support, and see you in the next video.